Samantha Harrison had been CEO for 10 years, and never once had anyone dared enter her office without an appointment, until that Monday morning, when an 8-year-old girl with blonde hair wearing an old sweater stood before her desk holding a handwritten envelope and said, "Miss Harrison, I want to apply for a job." The security system at Harrison Tech Solutions was state-of-the-art, designed to keep out corporate spies and unauthorized visitors. Yet somehow, at 7 in the morning, when Samantha arrived at her corner office on the 30th floor, she found a small figure sitting cross-legged on her leather couch, reading the quarterly financial report with the focused intensity of a seasoned analyst. The girl looked up when Samantha entered, her blue eyes bright with intelligence that seemed far too old for her face. "Good morning, Miss Harrison," the child said politely, setting down the report with careful precision. "I hope you don't mind that I started without you. Your third-quarter projections show a 12% increase in smart thermostat sales, but I noticed your customer retention rate dropped by 3.7%. That's concerning for long-term growth sustainability." Samantha stood frozen in the doorway, her briefcase hanging forgotten in her hand. She had heard children speak before, of course, but never like this. Never with the casual authority of someone who genuinely understood complex business metrics. The girl's voice carried the careful pronunciation of someone who had learned big words by reading, rather than hearing them spoken. "Who are you?" Samantha managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "How did you get in here?" The girl smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both innocent and knowing. "I'm Lily Sullivan. I studied your building's security protocols online. The maintenance access codes follow a predictable pattern based on the installation date of your system. It wasn't that difficult to figure out." She paused, tilting her head slightly. "Though I should mention that your firewall has some vulnerabilities in the legacy code sections. You might want to patch those." Samantha slowly walked to her desk, never taking her eyes off the small intruder. This was impossible. 8-year-olds didn't hack security systems. They didn't read financial reports. They certainly didn't offer cybersecurity advice to Fortune 500 companies. "Lily," she said carefully, as if speaking to a wild animal that might bolt at any moment. "Why are you here?" The girl reached into her backpack and pulled out a manila envelope, thick with papers. "I'm here to submit a job application for my father, Michael Sullivan. He's the most brilliant engineer I know, but he's currently working as an HVAC repair technician because sometimes the world doesn't see people's real value." Her voice carried a matter-of-fact sadness that made Samantha's chest tighten unexpectedly. "Your father sent you here?" Samantha asked, sinking into her chair. "Oh no," Lily said quickly. "Daddy doesn't know I'm here. He would never ask for help, even when we really need it. That's just who he is." She stood up and walked to Samantha's desk with the confident stride of someone much older. "But I've been studying your company for months. Harrison Tech Solutions specializes in smart climate control systems, and my father has ideas that could revolutionize your entire product line." Samantha accepted the envelope with trembling fingers. She had built her career on reading people, on knowing when someone was trying to manipulate or deceive her. But this child spoke with the quiet conviction of absolute truth. There was no pleading in her voice, no desperate sales pitch, just a calm presentation of facts, as if she were delivering a weather report. "How old are you really, Lily?" Samantha asked. 8 years and 4 months, Lily replied. "I know I don't sound like other kids my age. My father says I was reading before I could properly walk, and numbers have always made sense to me in a way that words do for other people. Last year, my IQ was tested at 156. But I don't think that really captures how minds work." The envelope felt heavy in Samantha's hands, weighted with more than just paper. She looked at this impossible child and felt something shift in her chest, a crack in the carefully constructed walls she had built around her heart. "What exactly is in here, Lily?" "A comprehensive analysis of your current product weaknesses, 3 proposals for algorithmic improvements to your smart thermostat learning capabilities, and a detailed resume of my father's qualifications that most people never bother to see." Lily's voice remained steady, but Samantha caught a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "I also included some of my own calculations, in case you think I'm making this up." Samantha opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of papers, covered in neat handwriting, detailed diagrams, and mathematical equations that looked far too sophisticated for a child's homework. The first page was titled, Optimization Strategies for Predictive Climate Control Systems, and was filled with technical language that would challenge her own engineering team. "You wrote all of this?" Samantha asked, her voice barely audible. "Daddy taught me," Lily said simply. "He teaches me everything." Samantha Harrison had built her reputation on being unshakable. But as she stared at the handwritten technical proposal before her, she felt her world tilting on its axis. The document in her hands wasn't just impressive for a child's work. It was impressive, period. The mathematical models were elegant, the engineering concepts were sound, and the proposed improvements to their thermostat algorithms showed an understanding of machine learning that rivaled her own research and development team. "This section on thermal prediction modeling," Samantha said, pointing to a page covered in equations and flowcharts. "These aren't concepts they teach in elementary school." Lily perched on the edge of the chair across from Samantha's desk, her feet dangling several inches from the floor. "Daddy explains things differently than most people. He doesn't talk down to me or use simple words when complex ones are more accurate. When I was 6, I asked him why our apartment was always too hot in summer and too cold in winter, even though we had a thermostat. So he taught me about thermal dynamics, building insulation, and how traditional climate control systems are reactive instead of predictive." She pulled out a small notebook from her backpack and flipped to a page covered in her careful handwriting. "That's when we started designing a better system, together. One that would learn from user behavior patterns, weather forecasts, and building characteristics to anticipate temperature needs instead of just responding to them. Daddy did most of the advanced mathematics, but I helped with the data analysis and pattern recognition algorithms." Samantha looked up from the proposal, studying the child's face. "How long have you been working on this?" "About 18 months, Lily replied matter-of-factly. "We work on it together after dinner when Daddy gets home from his repair calls. He says learning is the most important thing we can do together, even more important than watching television or playing games." The proposal included detailed schematics that looked like they belonged in a graduate-level engineering thesis, not in the hands of an 8-year-old. But more than the technical brilliance, what struck Samantha was the obvious collaboration between father and daughter that showed through every page. She could see 2 different handwriting styles, adult corrections and childish questions scrawled in the margins, the evidence of countless hours spent together over kitchen table learning sessions. "Your father taught you calculus?" Samantha asked, pointing to a complex equation. "And differential equations and basic programming and how to read technical specifications," Lily nodded. "He says that understanding how things work is more important than memorizing what they're called. He taught me that problems are just puzzles waiting for the right solution, and that the best engineers are the ones who never stop asking questions." Samantha flipped to the next section of the proposal and found herself looking at a hand-drawn diagram of a revolutionary approach to zone-based climate control that addressed several limitations she knew plagued their current product line. The drawing was clearly done by a child, complete with colored pencils and slightly uneven lines, but the engineering concepts it illustrated were sophisticated enough to warrant serious consideration. "This zone optimization algorithm," Samantha said, tapping the page, "this could actually work. My team has been struggling with similar efficiency problems for months." Lily's face brightened with quiet pride. "Daddy figured out that most smart thermostats fail because they treat the whole house like one big room, when really, every space has different heating and cooling needs based on size, window placement, and how people use them. Our system would use multiple sensors and learning algorithms to create individualized climate zones that adapt to real usage patterns." "And you understand all of this?" Samantha asked. "I understand the theory," Lily said honestly. "Daddy handles the more complex implementation details, but I'm good at spotting patterns and asking the right questions. He says that's the most important part of engineering anyway, knowing what questions to ask." Samantha set down the proposal and really looked at the child sitting across from her. Lily wasn't trying to impress her or show off. She spoke about advanced engineering concepts with the same casual tone other children use to discuss their favorite cartoons. There was no arrogance in her manner, just the quiet confidence of someone who had been treated as an intellectual equal for her entire life. "Why did you come here yourself, Lily?" Samantha asked gently. "Why didn't your father apply directly?" For the first time since entering the office, Lily hesitated. Her confident demeanor flickered, and Samantha caught a glimpse of the vulnerable child beneath the brilliant surface. Because Daddy doesn't think anyone will take him seriously anymore. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implications that Samantha was only beginning to understand. She looked again at the proposal, seeing it now not just as an impressive technical document, but as a child's desperate attempt to restore her father's faith in himself. "Tell me about your father, Lily," Samantha said softly. Lily's eyes grew distant, and when she spoke, her voice carried a weight that no 8-year-old should have to bear. "Daddy used to be a real engineer, working for big companies and designing important things. He had an office with windows and people who respected his ideas. But then Mommy got sick, and everything changed." She pulled out a small photograph from her notebook and placed it on Samantha's desk. It showed a younger man in a suit standing next to a beautiful woman, both of them smiling at the camera with the easy confidence of people who believed the world was full of possibilities. "That was before," Lily said simply. "Daddy took time off to take care of Mommy when she was in the hospital, and then after she died, he couldn't focus on work anymore. He says he made some mistakes, missed some deadlines, and his company decided he wasn't reliable anymore. Now, he fixes air conditioners for other people instead of designing new ones." Samantha studied the photograph, seeing the happiness that radiated from both faces. She could imagine how devastating it must have been for this man to lose not just his wife, but his career and his sense of purpose all at once. "But he's still brilliant," Lily continued, her voice growing stronger. "Every night after dinner, he helps me with my homework, and then we work on projects together. He built me a computer from old parts he found, and he taught me how to program it. He can look at any machine and understand exactly how it works, and he can fix things that other people throw away." She reached into her backpack again and pulled out a small device that looked like a cross between a calculator and a miniature control panel. "He made this for me last month. It's a prototype smart thermostat controller that can learn from user behavior and optimize energy consumption in real time. He built it entirely from recycled components he salvaged from repair jobs, but it works better than the expensive systems his clients pay thousands of dollars for." Samantha took the device and examined it closely. Despite its cobbled-together appearance, the craftsmanship was exceptional. The circuit board was hand-soldered with precision that spoke to years of professional experience, and the interface design was intuitive and elegant. "He'll make this in your apartment?" Samantha asked. "In our kitchen," Lily nodded. "He converted one corner into a little workshop where he tinkers with broken electronics. He says that fixing things is just another form of engineering, and that understanding why something breaks teaches you how to build it better the next time. And he taught you how to help." He says I have good eyes for spotting problems, and good questions for understanding solutions. Mostly I hand him tools and ask him to explain what he's doing. But sometimes I notice things he misses because I think about problems differently than adults do. His voice carried such obvious love and admiration for her father that Samantha felt her throat tighten. This wasn't just a daughter defending her parent. This was a brilliant child who genuinely saw her father as her hero, despite what the rest of the world might think of his current circumstances. "Does your father know how much you believe in him?" Samantha asked. Lily's composure finally cracked, and tears began to well up in her eyes. "I don't think so. He tries to hide it, but I know he feels like he failed us. He apologizes for things that aren't his fault, like when we have to eat sandwiches for dinner because he didn't have enough repair calls that week, or when I wear the same coat all winter because we can't afford a new one." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to regain her composure. "But he never failed me. He's the best daddy in the world, and he's still the smartest person I know. I just want someone else to see that too." The vulnerability in Lily's voice broke something open in Samantha's chest. She had spent so many years building walls around her heart, protecting herself from the messiness of human emotion, that she had forgotten what it felt like to care about someone else's happiness more than her own success. "Lily," she said gently, "why me? Why Harrison Tech Solutions? Because your company is working on the same problems that Daddy thinks about every day. And because I researched you, Miss Harrison. You started this company when you were only 26 years old, and you built it from nothing into something amazing. You understand what it's like to be underestimated, because of who you are, instead of what you can do. Lily's words hit Samantha like a physical blow. This child had seen through all her carefully constructed professional armor and identified the core truth that Samantha herself had spent years trying to forget. She had built her success on proving that she was more than the sum of other people's expectations, and somewhere along the way, she had lost the ability to extend that same grace to others. "You're right," Samantha whispered. "I do understand." As Samantha sat in her office looking at this remarkable child, memories from her own past began to surface unbidden. She remembered being 10 years old, trying to explain to her teacher why she had solved a math problem using a method they hadn't learned yet. She remembered the frustration of being told to slow down and wait for the other children when her mind raced ahead to connections and possibilities that others couldn't see. She remembered the loneliness of being different, of having thoughts and ideas that set her apart from her peers. Most of all, she remembered the adults who had looked at her with suspicion instead of wonder, who had seen her intelligence as a problem to be managed rather than a gift to be nurtured. "I was like you once," Samantha said quietly, more to herself than to Lily. "I was the kid who read technical manuals for fun and asked too many questions that made adults uncomfortable." Lily nodded, her eyes bright with understanding. "Did people tell you that you were too serious? That you should play more and think less?" "Every day," Samantha replied. "My teachers, my relatives, even my friends' parents. They all seemed to think there was something wrong with a little girl who preferred building circuits to playing with dolls." "Did it make you sad?" The simple question hit Samantha harder than any business negotiation ever had. "Yes," she admitted. "It made me very sad, and eventually it made me angry. I decided that if the world was going to judge me anyway, I might as well give them something worth judging." She looked at Lily, seeing her own younger self reflected in the child's earnest face. "Is that what you're doing now? Trying to prove that you and your father are worth more than people think?" "Maybe," Lily said softly. "I just know that Daddy deserves better than fixing other people's broken air conditioners for the rest of his life. He's capable of so much more, but I think he's forgotten that about himself." Samantha felt tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. When had she become so hardened that it took an 8-year-old to remind her what compassion felt like? When had she stopped seeing the person behind the resume, the story behind the statistics? "Tell me more about your father," she said. "Not his qualifications or his technical skills. Tell me about who he is." Lily's face softened. "He makes pancakes shaped like dinosaurs every Saturday morning, even when we're almost out of groceries. He reads to me every night, and he does different voices for all the characters, even the girl ones. When I have nightmares, he sits by my bed and explains how dreams work scientifically until I'm not scared anymore." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "He never talks down to me or tells me I'm too young to understand something. If I ask a question, he finds a way to explain the answer at my level, even if it takes hours. He's teaching me calculus not because he wants me to be a child prodigy, but because I asked how curves work, and he wanted to give me a complete answer." "He sounds like an extraordinary father," Samantha said. "Liz. But I think he's forgotten that being a good daddy is just as important as being a successful engineer. He judges himself by standards that don't include the most important things he does every day." Lily's words hit Samantha like a revelation. She realized that she had been making the same mistake, measuring her worth by professional achievements while ignoring the human connections that gave life meaning. She had become so focused on proving her value to the world that she had lost touch with her own humanity. "Lily," she said carefully, "what would make your father happy? Really happy?" "I think he'd be happy if someone gave him a chance to use his brain again for something that matters. Not just fixing what's broken, but creating something new. Something that could help people and make the world a little bit better." The sincerity in Lily's voice was overwhelming. This child had somehow managed to identify exactly what Samantha's company needed. Not just technical expertise, but the kind of passionate innovation that came from someone who genuinely cared about solving problems for their own sake. And what would make you happy, Lily? I'd be happy if Daddy stopped apologizing for who he is. If he remembered that being smart and kind and creative makes him special, not broken. She looked directly into Samantha's eyes. I'd be happy if someone saw him the way I see him. The two sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation settling between them. Samantha realized that this child had accomplished something that months of corporate headhunting and professional networking had failed to achieve. She had found exactly the kind of person Harassing Tech Solutions needed, not by looking at credentials or connections, but by recognizing talent and character where others had failed to see it. More than that, Lily had forced Samantha to confront the person she had become in her relentless pursuit of success. She had built a company that prided itself on innovation, but she had forgotten that true innovation came from people, not processes. It came from individuals who saw problems as puzzles and who cared enough to keep working until they found solutions. Would you like to meet your father, Lily? Samantha asked finally. You mean you want to meet him? Lily's eyes widened with hope and disbelief. I want to see for myself if he's half as remarkable as his daughter thinks he is. 2 hours later, Samantha Harrison found herself standing outside a modest apartment building in a neighborhood she had never visited, holding a folder containing Lily's handwritten proposal and feeling more nervous than she had in years. This wasn't her world of boardrooms and power lunches. This was real life, with peeling paint and narrow hallways and the sound of children playing in the courtyard. Lily had called ahead, telling her father only that someone wanted to meet him about a potential job opportunity. She hadn't mentioned who that someone was or how they had connected. Michael Sullivan answered the door, wearing work clothes and an expression of cautious confusion that transformed into alarm when he saw Samantha standing next to his daughter. Mr. Sullivan, Samantha said, extending her hand, I'm Samantha Harrison from Harassing Tech Solutions. I believe you and I have some things to discuss. Michael looked from Samantha to Lily and back again, his face cycling through confusion, embarrassment, and something that might have been panic. I'm sorry, I think there's been some mistake. I didn't apply for any position at your company. No, you didn't, Samantha agreed. But your daughter did, on your behalf. The color drained from Michael's face. Lily, what did you do? I told Miss Harrison the truth, Daddy, that you're the smartest engineer I know and that her company would be lucky to have you. Michael's apartment was small but meticulously organized, with a tiny kitchen that doubled as a workshop and a living room lined with bookshelves containing an eclectic mix of engineering textbooks, children's literature, and technical manuals. In one corner, Samantha could see the makeshift laboratory where father and daughter had spent countless hours learning and creating together. Michael painted. Mr. Sullivan, Samantha said gently, may I ask you about this? She showed him the prototype thermostat controller that Lily had brought to her office. Michael took it with hands that trembled slightly, examining it as if he couldn't quite believe it existed. Where did you get this? He asked. Your daughter showed it to me this morning along with a very impressive technical proposal that she said you worked on together. Michael closed his eyes and Samantha could see him struggling with a complex mix of emotions. Pride in his daughter's initiative warred with embarrassment at his current circumstances, and fear that this unexpected attention might somehow backfire on both of them. Ms. Harrison, he said finally, I appreciate whatever Lily has told you, but I think you should know that I'm not exactly an ideal candidate for a position at your company. My employment history over the past few years has been inconsistent. Because you were caring for your wife and then grieving her loss, Samantha said matter-of-factly. That doesn't make you unemployable, Mr. Sullivan. It makes you human. She moved closer to examine the small workshop area, noting the careful organization of tools and components, the half-finished projects that spoke to an active and creative mind, the evidence of a brilliant intellect that had found ways to stay engaged despite difficult circumstances. This is where you and Lily work together? She asked. When I'm not out on repair calls. Michael nodded. She's curious about everything, and I've always believed that children should have honest answers to their questions, even if those answers are complicated. Samantha picked up a notebook filled with technical sketches and mathematical calculations in 2 different handwriting styles. The collaboration between father and daughter was evident on every page, with childish questions leading to sophisticated solutions, and simple observations sparking complex innovations. "Mr. Sullivan," she said, "I'd like to offer you a position as senior engineer on my research and development team. The starting salary would be $85,000 annually, with full benefits and opportunities for advancement based on performance." Michael stared at her in shock. "I don't understand. You don't know anything about my work history, my references, I know that you raised a daughter who thinks problems are puzzles waiting for solutions. I know that you built a functional prototype of advanced climate control technology using salvaged parts and a kitchen table. And I know that you've created innovations that my own engineering team hasn't thought of yet." She gestured to the notebook in her hands. "Most importantly, I know that you've taught your daughter that intelligence is a gift to be shared, not a weapon to be wielded. That tells me more about your character than any reference check ever could." Michael looked at Lily, who was watching the exchange with barely contained excitement. "Sweetheart, what exactly did you tell Ms. Harrison?" "I told her that you're brilliant and kind and that you deserve a chance to build new things instead of just fixing broken ones," Lily said simply. "I told her that you taught me everything I know and that anyone who could teach a kid like me must be pretty special themselves." Samantha saw tears gathering in Michael's eyes as he looked at his daughter. "You did all this for me?" "I did it for us, Daddy, because I want you to remember how amazing you are." The moment stretched between them, filled with love and understanding, and the kind of connection that reminded Samantha why human relationships mattered more than corporate success. She realized that she wasn't just offering Michael a job. She was giving herself the opportunity to remember what it felt like to make decisions based on human potential rather than spreadsheet projections. "There's one condition," Samantha said, breaking the emotional silence. "I'd like Lily to participate in our youth innovation program. We partner with local schools to provide advanced learning opportunities for students with exceptional abilities. She could spend afternoons at our facility, working with our engineering team and having access to resources that match her intellectual capability." "You want me to work there too?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with possibility. "I want you to have the chance to learn from people who understand how your mind works," Samantha replied. "And I suspect our team could learn quite a bit from you as well." Michael looked overwhelmed by the sudden transformation of his circumstances. "Ms. Harrison, I don't know what to say. This is incredibly generous, but I need you to understand that I come with complications. I'm a single father, which means I have responsibilities that might affect my availability for overtime or travel." "Mr. Sullivan," Samantha said firmly, "one of the things I've learned today is that being a dedicated parent doesn't make someone less valuable as an employee. It makes them more valuable as a human being, and human beings are what drive innovation." She looked around the small apartment, seeing it now not as evidence of reduced circumstances, but as proof of resilience and creativity, and the kind of love that finds ways to flourish, even in difficult conditions. "Besides," she added with a smile, "I have a feeling that hiring you and your daughter might be one of the smartest business decisions I've ever made." 6 months later, Harrison Tech Solutions announced the launch of their revolutionary new smart climate system, featuring predictive algorithms and zone-based optimization that set new industry standards for efficiency and user satisfaction. The technical press praised the innovation as a breakthrough that would transform how people thought about home automation. What the press didn't know was that the core concepts had been developed at a kitchen table by a single father and his 8-year-old daughter, working together in the quiet hours after dinner when the rest of the world assumed nothing important was happening. Michael Sullivan had become one of Samantha's most valued team members, bringing not just technical expertise but a collaborative approach that elevated everyone around him. His patient teaching style and ability to explain complex concepts in accessible terms had transformed the company's development process, creating an environment where innovation flourished through shared understanding rather than competitive isolation. Lily had thrived in the Youth Innovation Program, working alongside graduate students and experienced engineers who quickly learned to value her unique perspective. Her ability to ask unexpected questions and spot patterns that others missed had contributed to several breakthrough moments in the development process. But perhaps the most significant change had been in Samantha herself. Working with Michael and Lily had reminded her why she had fallen in love with engineering in the first place. It wasn't about winning or proving superiority, it was about the joy of discovery and the satisfaction of solving problems that made life better for other people. She had started visiting the Sullivan apartment regularly, ostensibly to discuss work projects, but really to experience the warmth of a home where intelligence was nurtured with love rather than wielded as a weapon. She watched Michael read bedtime stories with different voices for every character, and she saw Lily explain her latest discoveries with the enthusiasm of someone who had never been told that learning should be a chore. In their company, Samantha remembered what it felt like to be curious rather than competitive, to ask questions because she genuinely wanted to understand rather than because she needed to demonstrate her knowledge. She rediscovered the person she had been before success had taught her to protect herself behind walls of professional achievement. The little girl who had walked into her office that Monday morning had given Samantha more than a brilliant engineer and an innovative product line. She had given her the chance to remember that the most important innovations happened not in laboratories or boardrooms, but in the quiet moments when people who cared about each other worked together to make something better than either could create alone. And sometimes, late in the evening when the three of them sat around Michael's kitchen table working on their latest project, Samantha would look at this impossible family she had somehow become part of and understand that Lily's greatest gift hadn't been her technical proposal or her father's engineering expertise. It had been her reminder that brilliance meant nothing without kindness, that success was hollow without connection, and that the most valuable things in life couldn't be measured in quarterly reports or professional accolades. They could only be measured in the love that passed between people who saw each other's true worth and chose to nurture it, one small act of faith at a time.